Philip from Poland, the Neo out.
Hi guys, it's good to see you. Well, good to hear you, and good to talk to you.
All right. And I have with me also Paula, my development assistant from Brazil.
Hello everyone, good night.
Perfect. So we will now turn off the camera and start with slides. We have a series of things, very interesting information, of course, that we hope you will find interesting, and it will make you feel more comfortable in attending the sessions during the August meeting. So let me now share the slides. Okay. Are you able to see my screen? I ask for confirmation.
Yes, Tommy.
Yep.
Okay. So I will start now with the presentation. So the agenda for this webinar is the following. We will start now with an introduction to the Scopy Sessions team. Then we move on by explaining the general agenda of the meeting and the Scopy agenda. Then we will talk about the regional sessions, more specifically for the Scopy and Scory also regional sessions, and the small working groups that we came up with for the August meeting, as well as the joint sessions. There is a list of joint sessions with very interesting topics for you to attend during day 3. And then we will start mentioning a series of information about the preparations for the August meeting, including what to bring, of course, but also the Scopy regulations voting procedures for you to navigate better the complicated procedures of voting during the GA, the poster fair and the contrast fair. As I said, what to bring to the August meeting, and also a to-do list. So first of all, let me introduce the Scopy Sessions team for the August meeting 2018. Of course, the Scopy Sessions team is composed by the Scopy International team. So I have my general assistant, Iris. I have Paula, the development assistant, who is also facilitating the webinar. And then my regional assistant for Africa, Luchacha, my regional assistant for the Americas, Larry, my regional assistant for Asia Pacific, Karan, my regional assistant for the EMR, Iman, and my regional assistant for Europe, Tanya. Unfortunately, only Iris, Luchacha, and Tanya will be able to attend the August meeting. But we have other people, other amazing people who are helping us in the preparation. And there are 7 people from different NMOs and different regions. One of them is Philip, you know him because he's a facilitator of the meeting, of the webinar as well. Neo out from Poland. Then we have Mohammed from Jordan, Georgia, the Neo out from CISM Italy, and then Heber from Honduras, Gabriela from IFMC Brazil, and then we have Stefana from Romania, and then Khaled also from Egypt. So I will now explain a little bit of the general agenda. In general, you may see that there are not many differences between the previous agenda of the March meeting. If you attended the March meeting or attended the webinar for the March meeting, the main thing is that we don't have the contrast fair. You will notice this important difference actually on day 3, because we will have it on day 4 this time in the afternoon session. And the difference compared to the last time when it was held during the August meeting is that we will not have the last hour open to everyone during the contract fair. So the first 2 hours will be open to the Neos and Noris for signing contracts, of course, and then the last hour, of course, will be still for signing contracts, but will be open to all participants in the Scopy and Scory sessions, but not to everyone. Besides that, I will introduce for the first time the Scopy sessions agenda. As you know, we have 5 days, we have 5 working days during the GA, and we thought about different types of activities for you to be able to benefit the most from the meeting. We have basic sessions, we have more advanced sessions. We came up with a mix of trainings and then sharing sessions, sharing moments, problem-based discussions, and of course the discussion on the regulation and the voting. I will now go more specifically into the agenda for each day, starting with day 1. We will start with an introduction and team building. We will have 1 hour to introduce, to get to know each other and of course, to be used as an icebreaker and team building. And then we will split into two groups. The beginners will go to the introduction to Scopy and how to activate Scopy. And then we will have the advanced session on the Scopy strategic plan, the updates on the annual working plan, and also on the database. Then we will join together again for the first session, and we will have 2 hours of sharing is caring, which means it's essentially a session where the NMOs, every participant, actually every exchange officer, or even Scopy member or Scopy addict has the chance to share problems, also best practices, but including problems on essentially daily problems related to the daily management of the exchange. And hopefully come up with solutions by sharing experiences and understanding how other people have dealt with the same problem. Then we will have lunch and NMO hour. This is important because the lunch and the NMO hour for this GA will be combined, will be at the same time. There will be a group of NMOs who will have lunch and then the NMO hour, and then another group of NMOs who will first have the NMO hour and then lunch. Then in the afternoon, we will have the regional sessions. We will explain more about the regional sessions later. So let's move on to day 2. We will start with tips for contracts fair and presentation of small working groups, the ones that will be also introduced to you for the first time in this webinar. After the first half an hour, we will split into 2 groups, and then the beginners will have a training on the perfect Leo, aimed at understanding the main characteristics that the perfect Leo should have, and also the basic rules on how to manage exchanges. And then the advanced session will be on the discussion of the regulation change proposals. We will have then a 30-minute session on the global health theme strategy, where we will update you on the result of our consultation on the new global health theme that for the period 2019-2022, and we will officialize the proposal for the topic that should be then adopted during the voting session on day 3 for the next 3 seasons. Then we will have 2 hours of small working groups that will be introduced later on, as I said. And one important thing, in the afternoon after lunch, there will be 1 hour of poster fair open to all Scopy and Scori sessions participants. The details of the poster fair will be explained later. So let's move on to day 3. We will start with the candidate debate, 1 hour, because of course it's very important. In the August meeting, we have the elections of the new Scopy director, we have the election of the new LME, which is a liaison officer for medical education issues. So the candidates will have the candidate debate and will answer all your questions during the first hour of day 3 in the morning. Then there will be 4 parallel trainings for 1 hour. We will have different topics, starting from outgoing selection, so a training on the perfect system for outgoing selection. And then we will have a session on social accountability and exchanges, quite advanced and innovative, because it's a new topic, which we hope you will find interesting. And also we will have a session on promotion, parallel training on promotion and marketing in exchanges, and another parallel training on evaluation and impact assessment. Then we will all again have 2 parallel sessions. One is for voting on the regulation change proposals, and then the other people who are not voting on the regulation change proposal will attend the training on academic quality, 2 hours. In the afternoon of day 3, we also have the joint sessions. You will see, you are able to see the topics here in this slide, but we'll explain them later. So I will move on to day 4 now. Day 4 is, as I said, in the afternoon only. We will have the regional sessions in the morning, but then the Scopy sessions will be in the afternoon. You will have lunch for 1 hour and a half, but the last half an hour can be used by the NMOs, in this case the NEOs and the NORIs, to prepare for the contract fair. And then there will be the contract fair from 2:30 until 4:30 p.m. and then at a final hour when the contract fair will be open to all Scopy Scori sessions participants. Final day, we will have the wake-up sessions and the first half an hour, and then 3 parallel trainings, one more advanced on recognition and accreditation, where we will discover the connection and how to use accreditation for recognition. And then a medium training on communication in Skopje, and a training for beginners, which is actually not a training, but a problem-based session on case studies, on different case studies, and how to solve different problems that may happen in exchanges. Then we'll have half an hour for PRET hosts and NMO successes presentation, where the NMOs will share their successes, and also the PRET hosts will promote their PRET in front of the whole Skopje sessions participants. Then we will have 2 hours of Skopje and SCORI graduation trainings for the TNET, for the soon to be graduated exchange trainers. There will be a lot of interesting topics. There will be 6 parallel trainings, and I'm sure you will find the topics that you will like the most. And then in the afternoon we have a lunch, but then afternoon we will still have the Skopje session, starting with the development assistant session with the updates on the work of the development assistant, including initiatives, and then half an hour of small working group outcomes, half an hour of outcomes of the sessions of the AM18 Skopje session and the Skopje D-elect speech, and then half an hour for the closing look picture when everyone will be said, because it means that it will be the end of our sessions. So I'll move on to the regional session. So I'll leave the word
to me. Yes, so as you probably know, instead of, also on top of the common Skopje sessions, we will also have regional sessions, which will cover the topics specific to our regions. So the regional sessions will all happen on the day 1, with the exception of Asia Pacific, which will also have a session on day 4. And they will be mostly in the afternoon, again with the exception of Asia Pacific, and they will all take up together about 2 hours of worth of time. So what kind of topics will be discussed during the regional sessions? So for the African region regional session, there will be an introduction to the topics and an icebreaker. Then you will talk about the exchanges week. Feedback will be collected and discussed, and how to ensure a better participation of the African region next year. There will also be a brainstorming on how to do online capacity building, on how to organize a PRET, which is a professional and research exchange training. And regional issues will also be discussed, like giving handover, visa problems, and problems such as public services going on strike. At the end of the regional session, there will be a picture and a common goodbye. As for the Americas, we will start with an introduction and team building. Then we will move on to regional collaboration in Skopje. So the point for this discussion will be to make a brief explanation on how Skopje is organized nationally, how the financial management looks like, how do you do incoming distribution, basically how to collaborate regionally in Skopje and share experiences. And then you will have updates on the Skopje IT. And also the capacity building in the Americas will be discussed. So, for example, what kind of capacity building events can be organized, and how can they be part of, how can participants and organizers contribute to them. There will be also a discussion on the Exchange Week 2018. So there will be also feedback collected and discussions on how can we improve it before the next year. There will be also discussion on expectations for the next term, and at the end, just as with the African session, a closing and group picture. So next we will have a discussion for a session for Asia Pacific regional session. So it will also begin with introduction and icebreaker, and then the participants will have an opportunity to discuss the exchanges in Asia Pacific, including the a quick overview and SWOT analysis of the exchange programs in the region. There will be discussion on the academic quality and of the 9 steps that should be taken in order to achieve academic quality. And that's on the day 1, because as you remember, the Asia Pacific regional sessions will be divided between 2 days. And on the day 4, which will be a shorter session, the participants will have an opportunity to learn how to organize a PRET. And then there will be time to do some free discussion about various issues the NEOs from Asia Pacific may be facing. At the end, there will be of course a picture. As for the EMR region, it will also begin with an introduction and icebreaker, and then the participants will have an opportunity to discuss how the perfect handover should look like, because it's of course it's important because it will sooner or later be a concern for everyone. And then you will talk about how to organize a PRET as well. So IFMSA Egypt will have a chance to present their experience in organizing PRETs, and then there will be also time to ask questions. The next point is exchanges in the EMR, strengths and weaknesses. So the 2 small working groups for that particular point will be formed, and one of them will work on a list of strengths, and the second one will work on the weaknesses, and both small working groups will present their outcomes. There will be also time for free discussions, and at the end there will be a group picture. And last but not least, the European regional sessions will also begin with introduction and team building, and then we will discuss some updates on the recent work of our arrays, and we will also go through the new GDPR law that has recently come into power in the European Union, and how it affects our exchanges in the region. So we will try to explain as much as possible, and there will be also time for questions. Then we will move on to evaluation of the term. Then there will be some buffer time if there is any time left. So this will be just some time to discuss various topics that are not planned yet. It will be just some time to ask questions or propose a topic to be discussed. And at the end, there will be a common picture of European NEOs. So that's the draft and the rough plan of the regional sessions.
Okay, and so now moving on to joint sessions. As you know, joint sessions are an important moment for our agenda, because it's an opportunity that we have to discuss and to interact with participants from other standing committees that are attending different sessions. So the joint sessions, as Tommy said before, are going to be held on the 3rd day, and this time and going to take 2 hours. We have 4 different joint sessions. The first one is ethical volunteering. It's going to be a discussion and presentation of this topic with Scopy, SCORY, and SCORE participants. So it's going to be important to have a different view about the same topic, which is ethics, and how we can involve deeper this kind of discussions. Then, yeah, don't worry, Tommy.
Sorry, can you see this? Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Because
we see the screen, but I like
or Philippe picture
not
only.
the presentation.
I can see Paula's picture, but not the screen.
Can you now see the screen?
Yeah. Now it is. Now it is.
Okay.
And then we move
perfect.
on to the second joint session, which is global health training. As you know, it's been an important work from our ITs that we've been developing during this term, and that thanks it's happening in a quite good feedback. It's also going to be Scopy and SCORY, but this time, since we're discussing global health and issues related to this, we are going to have the partner with SCOF. And then we move on to cultural shock and sexuality, gender identity. And again, Scope and Scori together. But this time we're going to have the contribution of Scora. So the discussions will be related to this theme. And it's the new discussion that it's going to happen in this agenda. And the last one is GAP and Public Health Exchange. I don't know how much you are into what's the meaning of GAP, but GAP stands for Global Action Project and is one of the main works inside SCORI. And it's when they have the collaboration to understand better epidemiological cases and disease that are specific from a region and how to develop projects better related to this. And this time the discussions will be to understand and how to collaborate with public health exchange, since both of them are dealing with specific health issues related to a specific place somehow. So now moving on to the SWGs. And we have like a series of SWGs. SWGs, the small working groups, they're also going to take 2 hours of discussions, but this time on the second day. So the first SWG is the exchange package. The exchange package is actually the SWG I'm working with, and I'm one of the responsibles for it. And the exchange package is one of the topics that we have inside our annual working plan. And the main goal is creating a tool that will facilitate the work of exchange officers in general and help to increase the opportunity and facilitate also for the exchange students that are going to travel. So it's a series of materials and tools that are being developed. And during this SWG, the main goal is going to be to share and to collect input and understand what is the perception of the exchange officers there. The other SWG is stress and mental health among exchange officers. I think all of us, we've been at least faced once a mental health issue related to our work, to cope with FMSA work, with university, and all the responsibilities that we have. So this SWG, the main goal is discussing how can we understand and interfere on mental health issues and stress manage related to our work in exchange. The third SWG is how to improve academic quality with exchange outcomes. As you know, exchange outcomes is one of the steps between the 9 steps inside academic equality, but exchange outcomes, somehow they are not that much used. So the main goal of this SWG is also understanding how can it promote academic equality, what you can do inside your NMO to reinforce the importance of this step. The other SWG is preclinical exchange versus SCORI internships. And of course, it's going to be facilitated with SCORI. And one of the main issues, or let's say main concerns raised when discussing the importance of preclinical exchange was the field that preclinical exchange, they can somehow be also related to SCORI internships, and how can we have both modalities of exchange having at the same time different exchange. The next one is Exchange Week in 2019. It's also going to be with SCORI, since it's an official event that we have with both standing committees. And this SWG is going to discuss how was the Exchange Week in 2018 and what can be improved, what can be changed, what should be kept, and this kind of things. The next one is Global Health Theme Strategy, how to implement it in Scopy. It's going to be, again, a discussion because we know how important it is to develop the discussions related to global health, since we have a lot of impact when going abroad for an exchange. And this is going to be related to the discussion of the strategy, how to approach global health and how to develop it even better alongside the NMOs. The next one is accessibility of Scopy exchange. How can we assure that our exchanges are being accessible to medicine students around the world? And we have the other one, contacting externals, how to. We know that sometimes we need to have partners, outside partners. So the main goal of this SWG is understanding how this can be done, and which strategies do we have for approaching externals, and how should we select them, and how to know in which field they will fit better, how they can help on promoting exchange, on organizing exchange, and which kind of help they can provide us. The next one is collaboration between Scopy and IFMSA programs. And it's something that we've been developing during this term. We are making the, let's say, the two topics more closer like to each one, and how can we use all the things that we have already established in IFMSA programs to increase the learning experiences Scope Exchange can provide, not only through PDTs, UATs, and educational activities, but also the way FMSA programs can help on having a better experience provided for our exchange students. And the last one is emergency situations during an exchange, how to deal with them. We know that countries and NMOs, they deal different with different situations, but somehow we need to understand that some emergency situations, they are common and let's say quite often they happen. So this SWG will be focusing on understanding how to deal with this, which are the main emergency situations that can happen during an exchange, how can we avoid them, how can we solve problems, or how can we prepare our exchange students to face it in a better way. So about SWGs, these are those ones. I hope that you are all excited to join at least one. And yeah. And now we're going to start with August meeting preparations. Yeah, you can move on. The next topic that we have is that you know that every General Assembly we have the discussions about scope regulations and the approval for changes and so on. So for being able to have the voting rights, you need to accomplish some tasks. And these are the ones you need to do for in order to have the voting rights for your NMO. So before July 1st, you may have seen that on Facebook, on WhatsApp groups, on our server, that you need to submit the NEO report. The NEO report is really important for evaluating the work for us as IT, understanding strength points, weak points, what can be improved, and also to have a kind of profile of what's happening in your NMO. And it's really important for improving even more the work for the next terms. Before July 16th, you need to review and update the Explore pages. So the Explore pages from the NMO, from the local committees, understand and check if they are updated, if they have changed something. Because remember that during August meeting, you are going to sign contracts. So the information must be updated in order that the other NMOs will have like confidence on signing contracts and knowing exactly what's going to happen, the cities available, the information related to its local committee, for example. And also until on July 16th, you need to sign and submit the copyright contract, which was already something that is really important and that must be done until the 16th. After July 1st and before July 16th, so it's yet not open for you, you need to review and update the exchange conditions. So on July 1st, we will release the opportunity for you to log in on ifmsa.org and update your exchange conditions with all the important information, the requested information, what has changed, what is kept, unilateral fees, and all the required information that has on the exchange conditions. So you have from July 1st to July 16th to do it and update. And yeah, let's go to the next topic. And now it's you, Tommy.
Yes. So, yeah, now it's my moment to try to help you navigate the complex labyrinth of the Scopy regulation voting procedures, and hopefully make everything clear for you, not like like this little child who seems a little bit confused in the picture. Anyway, so I'll try to start explaining the complex voting procedure by explaining first the types of majorities that we have in Scopy. So I'll start with a simple majority, which is actually the simplest, as the term says, and it means that there are more votes in favor than against. So abstentions do not count in this case. So whenever we vote on a proposal on with a simple majority, that means that there are more votes in favor than against, and it's normally used in Scopy for the amendments. This is the type of majority that we use when we vote on amendments to a specific regulation change proposal. When it comes to the absolute majority, This is a type of majority where more than 50% of all the votes are in favor of the proposed of the proposal, and the abstentions are actually counted in this case. For the relative majority, this is another type of majority for proposal in Skopje. In this case, relative and absolute majority are applied in limited cases. I would like to anticipate that for you. In the case of the relative majority, the proposal receiving the most votes carries, and the abstentions do not count. Normally, the relative majority is applied whenever there is a proposal and then an alternative or more alternative proposals. So in this case, the proposal receiving the most votes carries without counting abstentions. I will also explain what is an alternative motion in the next slide. Also, it's important to highlight that in case of a relative majority, if there are more votes against than for any of the proposal, all proposals fail. So there's the possibility to vote in favor of a specific proposal, one of the various proposals, or to abstain, or to vote against all. While the 2/3 majority is a type of supermajority, and where the number of votes in favor are at least twice the number of votes against, and abstentions do not count. So, what happens in Skopje? This is the debate maze for the Skopje regulation. So I will now explain each step and try to summarize the most important things there and the most important steps that we have during the regulation voting procedure. At the beginning, the chair reads the motion, of course, with a brief explanation that is normally provided together with the motion because there's a rationale for the motion to be proposed. At the same, right after this step, the chair asks for a seconder. If there is no seconder, the motion fails. So a seconder is another NMO in this case that approves the proposal. Essentially endorses the proposal. If there is a seconder and a seconder is found, then the chair moves on to the next step and asks if there are any amendments. If there are amendments, if there are no amendments, actually, they will move directly to the steps where the chair asks for direct negatives for the motion. So that means that the motion is voted directly, the original motion. But if there are amendments, then there might be different types of situation. So let's try to have the situation where there is an amendment, and then the chair asks if the proposer, the original proposer, accepts the amendment. If the proposer accepts the amendment, then the chair has to ask if the seconder also accepts the amendment. If both the proposer and the seconder accept the amendment, then the amendment is automatically incorporated to the original motion, which means that the motions that will be voted on by the whole plenary will be the amended motion. But let's move back to the when the chair asks if there are amendments, and there are amendments. If the proposer accepts the amendment, but the seconder does not accept the amendment, then we need to find a new seconder. So the chair will ask if there is any new seconder who wants to endorse and support the amended motion. If there is no new seconder, then the motion automatically fails. But if there is a new seconder, then the amendment is automatically incorporated to the original motion, because both the proposer and the new seconder accept the amendment. Let's go back again to the case when there is an amendment and the proposer does not accept the amendment. In the case when a proposer does not accept the amendment, then we will proceed to an immediate vote between the original motion and the amendment, which is decided by simple majority. So in this case, as I was explaining before, the motion that has the highest number of votes carries, as I was explaining in the previous slides. So abstentions do not count in this case. If the amendment is rejected, then we will move on with the original motion. If the amendment is, if the majority of the NMOs in this case, without counting the abstentions, vote in favor of the amendment, then the amendment is incorporated to the original motion. So by the end of this procedure, we will have a sort of a final motion that will be voted on by the NMOs, either the original one or the amended one. But there are still other steps. So At this point, the chair asks for direct negatives if there is any NMO who is directly against the proposal. If there is no direct negative, which is the simplest case, then the motion passes nemo contra, which means with no votes against. But if there is a direct negative, then the chair has to ask if there are any alternative motions in this case. What are the alternative motions, and what are the difference between alternative motions and an amendment? This is very important. The amendment is a minor edit normally to the motion. So you're editing some minor parts. While for the alternative motion, in this case, you're directly against the original motion and you propose to have a motion that is very different in terms of content and changes completely the meaning of the motion, of the original motion. Let's make an example to make it simpler. So let's have the example of a regulation change proposal that forces the incoming local exchange officer to buy ice cream with chocolate to all his or her incoming students. An amendment by the second week of the exchange. Then an amendment can be a proposal to move this deadline to buy the ice cream at the third week of exchange. But when it comes to the alternative motion changes completely the meaning of the motion. And in this case, a possible alternative motion could be that actually the NMO that is against because they don't want the Leo to buy the ice cream for the student, but they want the students to buy the ice cream for the Leo. So it's completely the opposite. In this case, it would be proposed as an alternative motion. I hope that this makes the things clearer. So the chair, let's move back to the step when the chair asks for alternative motions. If there is no alternative motion, but we still have the direct negative, we will just proceed to a vote on the original motion whether or not the motion will pass or fail will be decided by a 2/3 majority. But if there is an alternative motion, then the chair opens a speakers list and there will be a moderated discussion. So when we open a speakers list, then the NMOs, every NMO who would like to speak then can raise their hand and will be added to the speakers list. Every NMO will have a specific time when they can express their point of view. And then, however, when the speakers list is closed, no other NMO can propose themselves for the speakers list or add themselves to the speakers list. So the chair opens the speakers list, all the NMOs who want to speak raise their hand, then we create a list of NMOs, then we close the speakers list, and then all the NMOs in order, they speak and they share their point of view. When the last NMO finishes, we move on to the next step, and essentially the chair asks for a seconder for the alternative motion. If the seconder for the alternative motion is not found, then we will go back to the vote on the original motion because no one endorses the alternative motion. But if the seconder is found, then we will have the vote between the original motion, the alternative motion, abstentions, and against all. And in this case, the relative majority will apply. So this is the whole labyrinth of the Scopy motions. I hope that is a little bit clearer for you now. I want to just highlight a couple of concepts for you to be prepared for discussing the proposal. I want to point out the fact that you should discuss them in advance. If you are a NEO, please be prepared for the GA and make sure that you do not start long conversation and discussions during the GA, because we will have a session when we will discuss the Scopy regulation change proposal. But these proposals are meant to be discussed in advance. They will be shared in the month of July. There will be space for discussion in the servers. And please, I would really, really like all of you to participate in this discussion and share your concerns in advance so that everyone can be prepared for the GA. The GA is a moment when NMOs will essentially discuss the final points, and we will understand whether or not a motion is going to pass or is going to be amended or is going to fail. Also, another thing that you can do to discuss the motions in advance, there will be a discussion sheet shared with the NEOs, but where you can add directly some comments and suggestions to the document, but you can also open a thread on the Neo server. So if you want to propose something, there is the form. The call has been opened at the beginning of June, but we have also and we have as deadline the 1st of July. So until the 1st of July, you can propose motions, regulation change proposal. But then we will really encourage you to also open a thread on the Neo server if you want to discuss it with the Neos. If you're not a Neo, you will and you will not. If you are a Neo but you will not attend the GA, please remember to inform your delegate, in case you have a delegate for the Scopy session, on how to vote and which type of concerns to raise on behalf of your NMO. This is very, very important. Also, there is a space in the new report where you will inform us on who is your delegate and the name of your delegate for the Scopy sessions. So next topic.
Okay, so now I will talk a bit about the poster fair, which I hope you remember is going to happen on the second day of the sessions. So what is the purpose of the poster fair? Well, we would like you to promote your exchange programs that you have in your NMOs with the use of a poster. So the task for you before the August meeting is to create a poster about your exchange program together with SCORI. So the poster is supposed to be for both programs, and you just try to make it together. So both Scopy and SCORI take up the proper amount of space, and it's just created equal. So you can find the template in the August meeting folder. And also, if you have already prepared and brought your poster for the March meeting exchanges fair, you can, and you are very encouraged to reuse it for the August meeting, especially if nothing has changed since March. So we would like you to be as eco-friendly as possible and reduce waste while creating the poster. So another thing that is important to mention is that there will be no tables to display your merchandise, so please don't bring any. We made this change in order to encourage you to focus on preparing an outstanding poster and to just put all your efforts into thinking about how can you advocate for your exchanges to other Neos and other people interested in exchanges in Scopy and SCORI. So what should such poster contain? It should contain characteristics of your exchange program, areas in which you exceed, and something that is found only in your exchange program, in your country, in your NMO. It should also say what departments are available. For example, some NMOs accept preclinical students, some don't. In some NMOs, the incoming students are sometimes allowed to do some practical stuff. In other NMOs, it's only observation. So this information should also be contained. And the poster should also inform about number and distribution of spots, as the number of incomings being accepted varies greatly from 20 to 600. So this is a very important factor in when making a decision about signing contracts and choosing a place to do your exchange in. And the distribution of spots is also very important, because some NMOs accept students exclusively in the summer vacation period, while others do this all year round. And the poster, as I already mentioned, should be a fruit of cooperation between Scopy and SCORI. So it should also put some emphasis on how Scopy and SCORI collaborate in your NMO. And of course, what is also important is the description of social program in your NMO for the incoming students, and also how do you implement academic quality in your NMO. So please remember to print and to bring the poster to your to the August meeting. Do not bring any merchandise, and just put all of your efforts to create a poster that is very entertaining and very informative, because this is very important, and it may also help you take some final decisions in terms of with which NMOs should you sign contracts and how much exactly. So yeah, this is all regarding the poster fair.
Okay, so let's now move on to one of the most important topics that we have when we think about August meeting, that are the contracts. So it's important to think on how to sign contracts, and we have some tasks to be done before the August meeting. So now, soon you will like be working on this, and you can be already organizing the way you want. So before the August meeting, it's important to assess the capacity of your LCs beforehand, because you need to understand how many available spots you are going to have. Otherwise, you are not able to sign that amount of contracts for the next season if you don't know how many spots you have available in your NMO. The other important task is to make a list of all the countries that you want to sign, or that you want to decrease the amount of contracts or even increase the amount of contracts. Remember to think on the quality of exchange, on what you have seen, what you have read on the server, and even related to the exchange conditions that the NMO may have. And it's important, of course, to check the exchange condition of each NMO that you want to sign contracts with. So, for example, if you know that that NMO has a specific exchange condition that may not many students from your country be able to accomplish, maybe you should review and rethink about signing contracts. It's all like a matter of discussing it in advance. And of course, you need to inform and keep contact with the other news from the NMO that you want to sign contracts, and negotiate an agreement with the number of contracts. So, for example, you want to increase the number of contracts, but the other NMO is like a bit in doubt if they should increase or not. So all of these can be done before you arriving on the August meeting. So this way we will arrive during August meeting much more prepared from what you are going to face during the contract fair. During the August meeting. So we have the contracts fair. As you know, the contracts fair is going to be hosted on the afternoon of day 4. It's an obligation, like it's a must. You need to use the official contracts form. You know that by our regulations, unilateral contracts cannot be over 40% of the amount of incomings that you will receive. And if you need an exemption, you need to send it through an official request, because it must be like signed by the NMO president to the Scopy director, explaining that reasons. We know that we have some countries, some NMOs, they have this need of having a bigger amount of unilateral contracts. So of course, everything will be evaluated as long as you follow the right procedures. And remember, even if you send and you have an agreement, you have a negotiation with the other exchange officer before the August meeting, you are not allowed to sign contracts outside the contracts fair, outside also the August meeting. So you cannot sign contracts before the August meeting, just there. The next one. So now it's the contracts fair itself. So as I said, the contracts fair is going to be on the 4th day, and if it is your first contracts fair, or if it's not, this one now in August meeting, it will have like a bit difference. As Tommy said, it's not going to have like that final hour open for everyone. It's going to be 2 hours of exclusive for 2 members of SCORI and 2 members of Scopy, and then the final hour will be open to Scopy and SCORI participants. So what is important on the day of the contracts fair? You need to arrive early to prepare your stand, to organize your materials, computers, papers, the contracts forms itself. And as I said, just 4 people per NMO will be allowed, 2 representing Scopy and 2 representing SCORI. If you were on March meeting, you will remember that we have like that stand and on the door, so checking and receiving like the 4 people. So it's going to be quite the same. We will be checking how many people from your NMO are getting inside. This way we can like be equal with all the present NMOs. And it's important to print beforehand and to take with you the contracts form. And what can be pre-filled should be pre-filled, because During the contracts fair, it's a lot of things happening. You need to approach a lot of national officers. You need to sign the contracts. You need to find them, and even like have some final discussion. So everything that can be filled before, you should done it. So for example, the name of your NMO, the name of the other NMOs. If you have any special request, any month, any LC, you should have it already filled. This way you will avoid the stress during the contracts fair. Bring your nail stamp because you need to give your stamp on the contracts for, so it's really important. And prepare, for example, a spreadsheet where you have all this information on your hand. So if you want to sign a contract with NMO, you should like have it written there. The number of contracts and the months, if they are specifically, if you have the unilaterals, if you want any specific local committee, and all the information that you need and that are like essential for signing everything during the contracts fair. And again, what Philip mentioned about the poster fair, about going green and being eco-friendly, it's also valid here for the contracts fair. So it's important, as I said, that you need to have the contracts form in your hand printed, but you can do it in a way of avoiding like the waste of paper. So you can print them on A5 paper size using different grayscale, and using like the back and the front of the lift of the paper and everything else. For the stands you need to find ways of decorating the stands, but let's avoid again wasting materials or stickers or flyers. We know that sometimes they are in the end of the contracts fair, they are going to be thrown away. So focus on having important things that can be reusable, recycled. So, for example, it's important to have your flag or something that will attract people to know that that's your country, that's your NMO. You can always bring sweets, NMO mascots, or any other items that you think it's representative of your country, of your NMO. And it's also important if you want to have some information, or you want to show what's being done on the previous seasons, you want to share some pictures, more information, you can use your laptop to display it. And of course, we know that one of the most important things is to have fun, to enjoy during the contracts fair, but also to work. And this way you can wear your traditional costumes, you can have hats or other items that will be easily identified that that person is you, that you are representing your NMO, and it makes easier on the time of signing contracts, because you know that it can be a bit chaotic with a lot of people that you need to find, that you need to sign contracts. So being attractive to the other NMOs is also important. The next one. Yeah.
So to summarize everything, things you have to remember to bring: hard copy of contract forms, the NEO stamp, the poster of your NMO for the poster fair, and things you can or you should bring is the survival kit and the documents sent to you before the GA, and of course your Scopy t-shirt, because we need a lot of people dressed blue in order for our final goodbye picture to look amazing.
So, good, thank you, Philip. I want to highlight one thing about the survival kit. For those of you who maybe are attending the GA for the first time, there will be a survival kit with all this information and even more that will be shared in the month of July. So make sure to download the survival kit and read it before the GA to be prepared for the sessions and also to know what to expect. So what to do before the August meeting 2018 is for sure download the survival kit when it's released, but also complete all the voting rights tasks by the 1st of July, which means the new report in this case. And also, if you want to submit all the regulation change proposal that you want to submit as an NMO, because only the NMOs and the Scopy IT have the right to propose regulation changes, then just do it before the 1st of July. Then also make sure to respect the deadline of the 16th of July for the Explore pages update, the copyright contract submission, and also the exchange conditions, which can be updated between the 1st of July and the 16th of July. Also prepare hard copies of contract forms, as it was specified before by Paula. There will be, of course, the contracts fair is the one of the most important moment of the whole exchange term of an exchange officer, in this case of a national exchange officer. But make sure to go green and also follow the tips that we are recommending you to follow. Just make sure to use also, however, this is not very sustainable, unfortunately, but you have to make sure to use different papers for each contract, because in the end you are supposed to exchange the contract with the NMOs you are signing with. So in this case, unfortunately, you cannot use the front and the back of the paper. Also, make your poster for the poster fair. Also, this is important because we are having a moment before, on day 2, before the contrast fair, for NEOs and for NEOs to maybe come up with the final decision on whether or not to sign contract with the specific NMO, and also for the other Scopy and Scopy participants to just get to know a little bit more the exchange program of the other NMOs without the all the noise and also the merchandise, the materials that is normally shared at the contract fair, because we want this time the poster fair to be only focused on the exchange program of the NMOs, which means the poster. So make your poster on time, bring it with you at the August meeting, or use the one that you used during the March meeting. Read all the Scopy regulation change proposals and participate in the discussion online before the GA, which means in July. As I told you before, the proposal will be all shared in July. And you will have time to discuss them beforehand. So please make sure to take advantage of this occasion and do not come at the GA unprepared for the discussion. So it is now time for final questions from your side. So if you have any question on the Scopy sessions, so please write them in the chat. There is a chat on the right side of the YouTube link that you are using to follow this webinar. I would like to ask either Paula or Philip to help me with a question, if you can read them and report them so that we can address them properly.
We question that was made quite a few minutes ago. Do you want me to read, Tommy?
Yes, please.
She asked if will there be an opportunity for the ones not attending the August meeting to listen the Scoping Director candidate debate.
Okay, that's something that unfortunately, I mean, in Scopy we cannot provide this opportunity as Scopy alone. There is a specific task force, and it's a topic that has been widely discussed within the federation as a whole. So during the plenaries and by the presidents also, on how on how to stream to live stream parts of the General Assembly. And also which parts of the General Assembly should and could be live streamed. There's still an ongoing work from the task force in this case. I cannot ensure anything from my side, unfortunately. This is something that is coordinated by the task force from within the IFMSA, and of course supervised by the executive board, who regularly receives updates from the task force. So from my side, I cannot confirm nor deny whether or the possibility to have the candidate debate live stream at the moment. I'm sorry. In any case, you will have news, of course, in case it's possible to live stream debate. Any other questions?
We have a shout out from Barcelona. Always very clear, guys. Thank you for your time and the webinar. Thank you for attending and listening to us.
Thank you very, very much. We will maybe wait for 1 other minute if you have questions. Otherwise, we will just remember that you will be able to, of course, feel free to contact us as Scopy IT and Scopy Sessions team if you have questions and you haven't had the time or had the chance to ask them during the webinar. Feel free to contact us by email. Also, if you're now watching if you have the possibility in general to watch the webinar later. So if you want to review a specific part and rewatch a specific part that is was maybe not completely clear to you, then you can do it as soon as the webinar ends. The video will be automatically uploaded on the IFMSA YouTube channel, and you will be able to view it. And again,
I have an answer. Sorry, I have an answer to a question that was circulating around our NEO servers. Unfortunately, Madame Céline Dion will not join us for the Scopy sessions, although she's been invited.
She has been invited. We're doing our best, and we'll see. Actually, the OC is doing their best to make sure that we will have an important external speaker in our session named Céline Dion. So there are no other questions, right? Paula, Philippe?
It looks like there are no other questions. No.
Okay, so this means that we are gonna end the webinar, of course. We would like to wish you pleasant journey to Montreal, where we will finally meet each other very soon, actually, in more or less 1 month. And we will hope, we really hope that you will enjoy the sessions that we are preparing for you. This is just an anticipation of what you can expect. So I am now going back to turning the camera on. So you can also turn on the camera and say goodbye to our viewers. Thank you very much for attending the webinar, and see you soon in Montreal. Bye. And also, I also have Marty, the Scopy mascot. Sorry, Philip.
I was shut off.
I'm sorry, you can just say it again.
No, thank you. Thank you for joining us for the webinar, everybody. And on se voit bientôt à Montréal.
All right, au revoir.
Au revoir. Bye-bye.